What's up, Backlog gamers, and welcome to the channel. My name is Ted, and today I'll be going over some of my thoughts and opinions on the latest game I crossed off my list, Ultra Age. So for those of you that don't know, Ultra Age is a fast-paced action game that was developed by a South Korean indie studio, Next Stage and Visual Dart. It was originally released for the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch in 2021, and later released on the PC in April of this year. I personally picked this game up on Steam, and as such, my opinions are going to be reflecting the PC version of the game. Moving on to the story, Ultra Age puts you in the shoes of the protagonist, Age, who's accompanied by their flying robot companion, Helvis. The story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world which was split into two factions, one that sought safety off-world on a space station, and another that chose to remain on the planet. It's explained that Age is from the spacefaring faction and is on a reconnaissance mission to collect a relic left behind on their homeworld. Upon completing this mission, Age will receive eternal life, as they explain they only have 7 days to live, but it's something they seem fairly unfazed about. I do feel that certain aspects of the narrative were underdeveloped or muddied, but it does a good enough job to keep you moving from one area to the next and fills in a lot of the missing details by the end of the game. As such, I think the story is fairly decent given its scope and purpose. That said, I felt that the English voice acting was pretty rough, but thankfully the PC version gives you a Japanese voice option, which I found much more appealing. Somewhat surprisingly though, the game doesn't have a Korean voice option, which I found odd given the developers were based in South Korea. But perhaps that's only the case for the US version of this game. But regardless of which voiceover option you choose, where this game really stands out is in its combat. The game has a very fluid and fun combat system that's reminiscent of games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and the more recent Nier Automata. You have a series of combos that change a bit depending on the weapon you use. Each weapon has its own advantages and disadvantages, and you're encouraged to use specific weapons depending on the enemies you're fighting. Initially you just start out with one weapon, but as the game goes on you end up getting a few more. And as new weapons unlock, you're able to quickly switch between 4 of them. This switching mechanic will allow you to combo in between the different weapon types. For instance, if you're in the middle of a combo with a claymore, you can quickly switch to the electric blade using an opening move. I think this does an excellent job to create fluidity between the different weapon types, and does well to encourage you to use everything at your disposal. This idea is also reinforced by giving each weapon a durability meter. Once the durability is close to being used up, you can use a break ability, which is a powerful move that deals a lot of damage. In doing so, you'll use up that weapon, but you'll probably have extras on hand, or you can switch to one of the other weapons available to you. The game also gives you a tether-like ability with a whip. This allows you to pull enemies towards you, or allows you to pull yourself towards the enemies, closing any gaps there may be and allowing the combat to continue seamlessly. And once all these ideas are combined together, it creates a really engaging and fun combat system overall. This is all on top of skill progression that occurs throughout the game. With each combat encounter you'll be gaining experience, and that experience can be used to upgrade your weapons and abilities. While these upgrades don't always result in something terribly exciting, it definitely makes you more effective at fighting and increases your overall damage output. Additional upgrades are also available, such as increasing your healing output, as well as increasing the number of time rotations you have. And as far as time rotations go, this allows you to shift the time of day to replenish items that you'll find in the world. One thing I did find myself a bit disappointed with though was how they handled the first few boss encounters. While the fights themselves were fairly engaging, the models used for the bosses were that of the mob enemies you've been fighting, just made to be a bigger size. I found this to be a bit disappointing, but later in the game they do introduce a few bosses that have unique designs and movesets of their own. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the overall presentation, design, and flow of the game. Graphically speaking, I think the game does fairly well, although some of the assets are a bit more simple. That said, given the developers are an independent studio, I think they did an excellent job in this regard. It should be noted though that the game itself is extremely linear. While this was never an issue for me, I know some people are a bit more opposed to these types of games. Throughout the game, you're only really ever given one direction to go, with maybe 1 or 2 side paths that might have an item at the end of it. Again, I think given the scope of the game, this is perfectly fine. The only thing I found myself wishing was done a bit better were the dungeons that were introduced towards the end of each level. These seem to be procedurally generated areas that were linked together by the same hallways and rooms. That said, whenever you died and re-entered the dungeon, the layouts of the rooms and hallways never changed and remained static, which I found to be a bit peculiar, but didn't really hurt my overall opinion of the game. That said, after I finished the game, I felt myself wishing there was a bit more on offer here. Specifically, I think there are a few things that devs could go back and add, which would really enhance the replayability of this game. In that regard, I think it would be really good for the game to have a New Game Plus mode. While there might not be a whole lot of reason to play through the game again, having a New Game Plus mode would give you the opportunity to go through the game with all of your upgrades and weapons currently available to you. On top of that, it would also be nice for the game to introduce a mission select mode. This would be nice as there's no way to go back and collect some things you might have missed without replaying the whole game. And if there was a certain encounter you really enjoyed, a mission select would allow you to quickly go back to this and experience that again. Another addition I think would add some overall excitement to this game would be the ability to turn on a permadeath mode. I think this would fit particularly well in this game, given it's fairly short and was something I was able to beat in about 6 hours. Moreover, given the story premise that the character only has 7 days to live, it could be fun to have a timer going through the game, encouraging you to finish it as fast as possible, and if that timer were to run out, your character would die like it says in the story. But at the end of the day, Ultra Age provides a compelling, fun, and fast combat-oriented game. There's a good amount of variety in the weapons available to you, and some of the boss encounters are quite enjoyable. While there are a few things I think could be added to the game, this didn't stop me from thoroughly enjoying my time. Ultimately, I would highly recommend this game to anyone that's looking for a quick and fast-paced action game. But that's it from me today. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'd love to hear your opinions of Ultra Age in the comments below. Otherwise, I wish you all the best, and I'll see you next time.